So as Chris said, who are we and why are we here? So we are with OpenText. OpenText is probably, what do we say? We are the largest pure play software vendor you've probably never heard of. So why are we here? We are here for network automation. And I wanted to thank Chris and Scott for actually taking our product name, network automation, and creating a forum out of it. So thank you very much. I'm one of the product managers for the product name network automation. We are a vendor, of course. We've had the conversations about build versus buy. And we were scanning this thing called Slack. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Slack channel, but there was a quote in here that says, why does network automation have to be a journey? Somebody actually asked the question. And then the answer was, or another question, why can't it just be something we buy off the shelf like any other software? So again, we have an option and we have customers that provide that. So we actually have a really cool use case and a story provided by Matt Miller, who's one of our subject matter experts, that we like to call Uncle Matt's story time. So Matt, here you go.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone, and good morning. So I was asked to provide to share a customer story. There's a lot more details that can go into this. Feel free to stop by our booth if you're interested in hearing more about the details. But basically, this was about a customer that was mostly happy, or had been mostly happy, just doing automated network backups and some compliance. And they decided that they were ready to do more with network automation. But one of the problems was, and from the network manager, is my team doesn't even have an hour of downtime during the week. So he reached out and said, okay, can we work with you guys to implement an advanced use case, and then maybe we can leverage that to do other things. And so we said, sure, do you have a list of use cases? And they committed to providing a list of use cases. And when I didn't hear back right away, I had a sense that they might be struggling. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, guys, I said, this doesn't have to be a list. If you've got just one thing to automate, we can roll with that. And so when I said that, they came back with a list. So the thing about network automation is that use cases come in different shapes and sizes, and some are more impactful than others. And that's okay. Little wins collectively add up to big wins, right? But in this case, we got together to implement their top use case, which involved like adding interfaces to VLANs, which is fine, perfectly legitimate use case. But we got together and we're talking, we're conversating, I'm talking to them, they're talking to each other, and at one point they mentioned something about a network outage, major network outage, and I could tell the tone of their voice changed. And I said, well, tell me more about what you're talking about. And so they did, and when they were done, I was like, guys, I said, that's our use case right there, let's automate that. And they were like, oh, yeah, we can do that? Okay. So that's what we ended up shifting gears, and I'm gonna lay out here in this next slide what they, whoops, I need to build this out, what they shared with me at that time. So basically, they had a situation where their InfoSec team was continuously providing lists of malicious IPs that needed to be blocked in their global firewall deployment in the form of spreadsheets. And the network engineering team would take the spreadsheets, and they had an engineer who would copy and paste hundreds, this was a near full-time process ongoing, hundreds of IP addresses to build out firewall configurations for all the virtual context and all their global firewalls, over 100 firewalls globally. And so the first thing that hit me when they're describing this is just the tedium of this process. But the big deal to them was the fact that an engineer had copied and pasted a malformed IP and didn't catch it. And when it got sent to the firewall, in this case, the vendor actually converted that to 0.0.0.0, blocked everything, and took out a large portion of their customer base. This reverberated up and down multiple levels of the organization. It was a big deal. People were nervous about losing their jobs. So basically, what we proposed, and I'll build this out real quick, we proposed a fully automated end-to-end solution, including the upfront security piece, the InfoSec piece. We've implemented today is the network automation piece that was most meaningful to them, right? And that was the part that was taking the most time. So basically, took me about 2 hours worth of Python effort. We had a solution that did this now in minutes. So we effectively gave that network manager back a full-time resource. And most importantly to them, though, was the fact that since we're doing this programmatically, we would never send another malformed IP to the firewall. So we eliminated the possibility of that happening again. So let's see here. So just to recap, I mean, basically, they were struggling in the beginning to get started. They didn't really understand the art of the possible, which I think we just heard a reference to that a little bit earlier. And so, you know, understanding the art of the possible is kind of key, because we've heard last year, and I suspect we've probably heard or will hear again this time, you don't need to boil the ocean, start small, low-hanging fruit, and all of that is good stuff, right? But don't be blind to home run use cases that might be in front of you, like in this case. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
Got a question. So why did they not test this change in a lab before they deployed it in production?
Yeah, so good question. So obviously they didn't test the original solution, or they wouldn't have had the outage. And that was in large part because they didn't have a network lab. And in order to test the solution that we just discussed here, they actually ended up temporarily repurposing a redundant production device, which is obviously not ideal for obvious reasons. So that was why they did not test.
Which is what we would like to have a good reason to introduce Ryan Ring from Cloud My Lab that we're partnering with at the show. So Ryan, how would you have responded to this scenario about testing and net DevOps?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Well, you know, our journey with OpenText is really a success story because they came to us as a customer. In Cloud My Lab, we specialize in providing hosted, fully managed, and supported labs as a service. So whether you're building out a digital twin or you have a proof of concept that you want to work on, you know, we can help with that. So their team came to us because they had a really specific use case where they wanted to do device driver testing and build out device drivers for the latest technology that was coming on the market. So that went pretty successfully over the last year and a half. We've been doing that, and then more recently the sales team came and said, hey, we want to be able to showcase our network operation management tools with these new devices that you guys have built in your lab. So we put together a lab for them, and they started showing it to the customers. And then the customers said, hey, we're doing network automation, and we would really like to have a lab to test this stuff out in. So the last 3 months, and one of the reasons we're here together today partnering, is because we've been working on an integrated solution to provide a lab through the single pane of glass, which is their network operation management tool set. So being in the lab space for the last 8 years, we're finding ourselves playing a key role in the network automation space because everybody should really have a lab to test their automation in. That's what we're here to do. If you want to come by and see us at the booth, we're at booth number 1. And also they've got a workshop going on in the conference room where they're showcasing how we've integrated these two things together. And yeah, that's it. John?
And most importantly, we have socks. There we go. Thank you. I got to show some love over here. And there we go. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.